Really excited to have Kyle here because he is representing the Ethereum Foundation and they've been leaders in this space. So, Kyle, welcome and thank you so much for doing our EndNote for our global summit on TradFi, ConsumerFi, and DeFi. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Life is good. I'm having fun. It's Friday for me, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
Yeah. So, why don't you share a little bit about your story? How did you come to be part of the Ethereum Foundation? And then we're going to be talking a little bit more about the guidance that the foundation provides to the ecosystem.
Sure. Yeah, born and raised Southern California. I went to the military at a very young age, at 17 years old, and ended up serving for 12 years. Had a lot of fun there. First working on fighter jets, and then going into the intelligence world. I was an Iranian linguist, an intelligence analyst. After that, I got my MBA here at Rice in Houston, and then I went to Goldman Sachs for almost 7 years. And while at Goldman, a year in or so, I became very heavy into crypto. So I started personally in crypto around 2016. And during COVID, I was able to work from home, but I spent most of my time in mindshare in the crypto space, even while like working full time. Goldman almost became my side gig mentally. And so my wife saw that I was unhappy at Goldman, where people were just kind of measuring wallets, and it was always kind of dog eat dog world. And so I finally got the kitchen pass to quit, took a huge pay cut, and to come work in the space and find some fulfillment. I'm so glad I did. I'm so much more fulfilled. I'm so much more proud to tell my son what I do, why I do it, to be in this space, even if I gave up a lot of money and prestige at Goldman. So I came into the space, and for the past half decade before the EF, I've been leading protocols. I led something called the Graph for a few years, which is an indexing protocol that helps organize blockchain information and flow into a front end, all these applications we see. Then I spent another 2 years at an even nerdier protocol called the Veil. And for the past few months, I've been leading institutional efforts for the Ethereum Foundation across North and South America, which it's actually a relatively new effort. The Ethereum Foundation, since its beginning, has always been very idealistic and cypherpunk, and not really doing much outwardly to try to get especially institutions to adopt. But right now is an interesting time because, as I've learned and as I've been dreaming about for a decade, institutions are not only paying attention,
Yeah.
they're actively scoping things out. They're creating proofs of concept and pilots. Many are actually even in production with financial primitives, and now it's time for expansion. And so it's really cool to see that when I talk to institutions, and it's literally the biggest financial institutions in the world, the Goldmans, JP Morgans, the Morgan Stanleys on the bank side, the asset managers like BlackRock, Fidelity, and then the fintechs, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal's. When I talk to them, it's not, do you know what a blockchain is? Do you know what Ethereum is? It's more, all right, how are you thinking about the strategy? And they've probably already been thinking about it for years. And I get to work on their team, help them as a thought partner, and introduce the Ethereum ecosystem across layer ones, layer twos, and every application across the entire ecosystem. So it's actually a really cool role.
No, I love what you're talking about because, again, you are the end node for a TradFi, ConsumerFi, DeFi summit. And, I've been in the space over 10 years, and it's happening so fast. Before there was a divide between, decentralization and traditional. And like you said, now there's this overlap. It's like the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
So what kind of training or questions are you maybe that you're experiencing as these institutions are trying to understand how to create products for consumers and how to kind of integrate into their ecosystem?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on where they are on the Kanban of adoption, whether they're just thinking about it, they've been thinking about it, they're tinkering, testing, or they're working in production, like something's actually working in the real world, or they're expanding. And so I'd say the biggest thing that comes up, especially with financial institutions, is privacy. They want to know, how do you have privacy in a public blockchain? And they just don't know what's happening across the space to enable that. A lot of again, financial institutions worry about KYC, AML, how
Mm-hmm.
they have a single sign-on process, how they, if they're building their own blockchain, which multiple institutions are. If one public company's Robinhood chain building on the Arbitrum stack. Like how do you interoperate between different chains if
Yeah.
there are siloed assets, and
Yeah.
so it becomes one large ecosystem. They I often talk about post quantum and where we are and match up roadmaps because they're thinking about the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Many are interested in agentic finance, so AI agent finance, and how that's already becoming a very realistic way for agents to interact not only with humans but amongst themselves. Because an agent can't apply for a bank account, they can't have a physical wallet, and so crypto rails across the Ethereum ecosystem or others is just it's going to be the best way for agents to be able to access and interact on across financial rails. And what's really important about the Ethereum ecosystem is it's just incredibly neutral. Can't So it can't block someone simply or any agent simply because of who they are or what they're doing. And so it's a very censorship resistant open source project. Not even a project. It's obviously an established blockchain. So it's I'd say those are some of the biggest ones, as well as how do they, if they're doing something like BlackRock's Biddle Fund, how do they interact with decentralized finance? Because you can concentrate on the supply side, just putting things out there, tokenizing things, but how do you concentrate on the buy side, the demand side?
Yeah.
And so decentralized finance, or DeFi, can really increase the utility of something as opposed to just putting it on chain and giving access to the world. You can use a lot of DeFi rails to do some really interesting things that you can't even do in the traditional markets. Uh, I'd say that's the high level stuff. I get pretty nerdy with folks because I'm talking to heads of product, heads of digital assets, heads of engineering, CTOs, and then when I go up to the C level above that, like CEOs or anything like that, they often don't want to get in the weeds. They just say, how's this going to do something for my business? And so a lot of my role is just translating my ideals and why I'm here. But I don't say decentralization. I say resilience. I don't say these crypto buzzwords. I translate it so that it's real practical outcomes and functions. Which is what institutions actually want. They don't buy ideals. They don't buy philosophy. They buy outcomes. And so it's been a long time coming. And our team is small, and we're all kind of exec level from before. But I lead the Americas. There's a Europe lead, MENA lead, an APAC, and a global, and it's really fun. Yeah, and it's something that's important because in most of these conversations, even just today, I was on with the bank, and it's the first time I'd spoken with him, and he said, "This has been missing in Ethereum, where people are brilliant, but sometimes they just can't talk to institutions."
No, I definitely agree on that. And I'm curious, you mentioned two things that I want to expand on. I like the conversation that you were talking about in terms of AI agents. I keep wondering, with consumers and individuals, we get KYC'd. I wonder if AI agents are going to be KYC'd as well.
It'll actually be KYA, which is already a thing people are thinking through
Mhm.
of standardization. So yes, and to get nerdy a little bit, they're going to have these micropayments, and the Ethereum ecosystem came up with something called X402 that's enabled that. Then you have to have a digital identity for the agent, which is 8004. And so these primitives are what institutions are building on because it's enabled it, and it's all been built by the Ethereum ecosystem, not just by the Ethereum Foundation, but I mean, there are so many people working on the Ethereum ecosystem from layer ones, layer twos protocols, all building this together across the world, async most of the time. So it's just an amazing global effort that's enabling something that can truly go 0 to 1 to upgrade existing financial rails.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, in my mind, it reminds me of like a net around the globe, and everyone is interconnected and having a different piece and part. So
Yeah, the Ethereum Foundation just came out with a roadmap. Vitalik was the first to post about it, I think, and it's most importantly increasing throughput and scalability of the layer one.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than that, increasing the scalability of layer twos, which are these customized execution environments. And then the data from those get posted to the layer one, which is the source of truth. So if something happens on a layer two that's malicious or wrong, just something goes wrong, you can still revert back via the layer one as a source of truth. And so it's that scalability. It's privacy, inherent privacy with ZK coming, or ZK being zero knowledge proofs, being built into the ecosystem. It's all the stuff I talk to institutions about. So post-quantum is a big thing. Hopefully by 2030, I bet it'll be earlier. And I'd say those are the biggest things. Yeah, I'd check out the Ethereum roadmap. And then I think the focus of the foundation, where I'm very externally focused, talking to institutions, and they have to build iteratively as opposed to become completely idealistic like the foundation. The foundation concentrating on protocol is going to focus on what they call crops, which is censorship resistance, open source, private, and secure. That's the North Star for the Ethereum Foundation. Whereas I'm on the eco development team, the ecosystem development team. We are going to have to walk things through there, through institutions through there, others through there, to get to that. But we need to start a bit more practically. With the foundation, they want to stay idealistic, which is great.
For consumers, for individuals that might not yet be in the Ethereum ecosystem, what would you like to share with them?
Well, eventually, everything they're doing right now anyway in the financial world is going to be on likely Ethereum. And it could be multi-chain. I think it will likely be multi-chain because some other ecosystems might have some different use cases. But I think from what I'm hearing from institutions, it's always Ethereum and maybe something else. It's never, all right, let's go somewhere else and ignore Ethereum entirely. So I would say even if you don't want to get involved in the ecosystem on your own, while there's still things that need to be ironed out on the user experience, because it can be a little janky right now, getting a wallet and bridging from one blockchain to the other and understanding what these assets are, understanding what decentralized finance is and how to avoid the pitfalls. And there are pitfalls, at least right now. In the end, I think most finance is going to be on blockchain rails anyway, so it's going to be a Trojan horse, and people are going to eventually be on it anyway. But if you want to learn, one, first, you could always reach out to me. I can point in the right direction. Two, I'd highly recommend listening to podcasts. There are very good podcasts like Epicenter. Blockworks puts out some great podcasts. They just started a new institutional one to show how institutions are getting involved in this space. And then if you really want to meet the space and hear what people are building, I'd suggest going to an Ethereum conference. You meet the actual builders, ETHCC and Cannes. I mean, not everyone could go to Cannes, but if you're in France, there's one in France every year. There's DevCon or DevConnect that travels all around the world. It's been in Thailand, Argentina, Colombia, India, other places, Turkey. And so I'd find, and then there's ETH Denver, there's stuff in the States as well. There's Consensus Miami in May. There's a ton of very good conferences if you want to go meet people from the inside out. But if not, there's so much online that you can just go find out, or even better, literally go into ChatGPT or go into Grok or these things and literally just ask it questions and say, tell me about the Ethereum ecosystem, and you can go from there. How do I get involved? I don't need to even give the best examples. I would just go to an LLM. I'd be careful with some, just because they're not fully trusted. But yeah, I'd go to them and just ask. It's just such an exciting time that institutions, BlackRock's going to tokenize 12 trillion of assets, and that's one institution. People will follow BlackRock. So I highly recommend just learning about this ecosystem and learn why we're doing it. So read the Ethereum Foundation's recent manifesto that we put out. Actually, you could just use an LLM to summarize it because it's long, but it's why we're doing this, and just understanding the values of the ecosystem and then relate it to how much better it is for the world. It's just not only gives people access with stable coins as opposed to a deflationary currency in a third world country, you can have access just with a connection to the internet to a stable coin, a US dollar coin, and not have access to a severely deflationary currency. And then you can not have that taken away if there's a dictator or something like that. That alone is going to really help a lot of people around the world. But then it just goes beyond that, the unbanked and so on. So it's just a really fun space to be in. It's a really fulfilling space to be in. And I feel very grateful. I feel lucky that I get to work in it.
And you know what, we're lucky to have you as our end node and also to have you in our community. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Everyone, we are going to go back to our summit right now. Stay tuned.